Saying that Uncharted 4 is a fantastic game is an understatement, because Uncharted 4 isn't just fantastic, it is a masterpiece. Developer Naughty Dog has created more than just another Uncharted adventure. They created an experience unrivaled by any other game this generation. With Uncharted 4, Naughty Dog has perfected the story-driven action franchise. This game succeeds on all fronts. Gameplay, story, voice acting, music, you name it, and Uncharted 4 has done it. Uncharted 4 is a must-have for anyone who has a PS4, and Nathan Drake's final adventure could not have been more satisfying. Once again, the player is put into the shoes of Nathan Drake on another fortune-seeking adventure alongside his pal Sully and his now wife, Elena. But a new face in the life of Nate has seemingly returned from the grave. Nate's long-lost brother, Samuel Drake, shows up to wrangle our hero into one last adventure. The two brothers are in search of the infamous pirate treasure of Henry Avery that has eluded them for so many years. They set out on what is to become their greatest adventure yet, and the only thing standing in their way is Rafe and his partner, Nadine. Their adventure leads them to many beautiful places, from the outback of Madagascar to the remote island paradises, as they inch closer and closer to uncovering Captain Avery's notorious pirate treasure. This is why Uncharted is so fantastic, because it tells an impressively fun and adventurous story that it puts the player in control of. This tale is by far the best in the series, in part because of it being so different from the others. In previous Uncharted games, the stories all felt very similar and predictable all the way up until the end. However, in Uncharted 4, I found it extremely hard to predict any part of the story, making it stand out from Nate's previous adventures. The entire narrative is all held together by an impressive voice cast that makes the player care about every single character in the game. Each and every relationship in Uncharted 4 seemed real. There was so much that I wanted to know about every character because they were so interesting. Sam Drake especially. On the account of him just being introduced in this game, it is impressive how much the player cares about him in the end. And even though the villains of the story were voiced extremely well, their characters were not particularly interesting. Rafe being the billionaire in search for something more in life, and Nadine being just a hired gun, made them feel so generic. Their characters were never really fleshed out as much as the heroes of the story. And even though the two villains are not that strong, it doesn't really matter because Uncharted isn't about the villains. It is about Nate and his pals going on spectacular adventures in seek of great fortune. The game isn't like the ones that came before it. This time around, the pace of the gameplay is slowed down a lot more. There are still marvelous action sequences in the game, although there seems to be more emphasis on exploration on this adventure, as I found myself exploring areas with no enemies in sight more often. This decrease in speed doesn't take away from the impressive story. However, it does take its toll on the gameplay towards the end. In the final act, the game seems like there is no end in sight, and this begins to become an annoyance. I can honestly say that there was at least 3 separate times where I thought that I was nearing the end, just to find out there was more in store for me. That being said, this is the longest Uncharted in the franchise and is best taken in chunks rather than a marathon gaming session. The gameplay feels so familiar, so it isn't hard to understand if you have played the previous Uncharted games. You're still running and gunning, taking cover while shooting enemies, and engaging in hand-to-hand combat. A few notable additions to gameplay include the rope, which allows Drake to swing from cliffs and poles whilst either landing on enemies with a melee attack or shooting at them mid-swing. There is also an extreme emphasis on stealth, as the game allows the player to take out every single enemy without firing a shot, or just completely avoiding enemies altogether. The player can also run into any situation, guns blazing, and shoot their way through these sections, but that usually causes more enemies to show up. Players will also be with one of their companions for most of the game, allowing them to perform buddy melee combos on enemies, in which they can hold an enemy for you or free you from an enemy's grasp. These additions give the player a lot more freedom as to how they approach any situation as opposed to the games that came before it. The only gripe I had with the gameplay were these few sections where the game makes the player use the Jeep's winch to pull your party up the hill. These sections are extremely annoying because the player has to stop the Jeep, get out, grab the winch, bring it up the hill, tie it around a tree, get back in the Jeep, and pull it up the hill. There are so few of these sequences that I would have rather the game allowed me to just drive up the hill, rather than just go through all this work in what only seemed like an effort to put more realism in the game. It wouldn't be an Uncharted game if there weren't gorgeous set pieces, and this game has plenty. The impressive graphics of Uncharted 4 make everything in the game look incredibly beautiful. I found myself just standing still, admiring just how fantastic everything looked in the game. Uncharted 4 is truly a work of art that is so impressively stunning that I could not believe that I was playing a video game. Literally, everything in this game looks so real that it could have been mistaken for some Hollywood action film. There is, however, one problem with this amount of polish in the game, and that is whenever some objects or textures don't look as good as the rest. This is visually jarring as they were significantly less pretty compared to the rest of the game, pulling me out of the experience. But these instances were so small that it didn't distract for long, and I was back to my adventures on the hillsides of Scotland to the shore side of a remote island. And where would all this beauty be without a great tune to listen to while Drake explores these incredible vistas? The music fits in perfectly with every setting, building tension as you approach a group of enemies, or having some nice background noise as you search for the solution to an elaborate cave puzzle. Even with no music playing, the sound of the wind blowing the branches of the trees or the chatter of conversation in a busy town square fills the lull. As always, the players get to hear the playful banter between Nate and one of his pals as they explore what remains of an old clock tower or while rummaging through a wine cellar. These conversations were thoroughly entertaining and had me chuckling all throughout the game. Then, the story ends and it is time to turn off Uncharted for a while and move on to another game to fill your time. That is, until the online multiplayer sucks you back in. Uncharted's multiplayer isn't just something that has been tacked on. Oh no, the team put some real work into this. The multiplayer is expertly done with enough amusing features and gameplay to keep players coming back for more. There are quite a few game modes here from Team Deathmatch to capture the flag. However, my favorites were the Plunder mode, Bounty Hunt, and Team Deathmatch. Deathmatch is pretty much the standard for all multiplayer games. Each team tries to rack up as many kills as they can before time runs out, and it's in every multiplayer game because it is so enjoyable. The Plunder mode has each team go after a treasure and try to return it to their base while the other team tries to kill them and take the treasure for themselves. Finally, there is the Bounty Hunt mode, where the game puts a bounty on either a member of your team, in which your job is to protect them, or it puts a bounty on a member of the other team, in which you must destroy them. I love swinging from my rope and shooting people down, taking them out stealthily, or just finding cover and blowing them away with my weapon of choice in each of these modes. All of these modes come with a ranking system and an upgrade system, in which you get in-match money for kills and finding treasure to spend on things like mystics, grenades, or gold guns during the match. The gold guns are just more powerful weapons, and the mystics are special powers that give the player a variety of special abilities that range from teleportation to dropping a sarcophagus and unleashing a curse on the other team. All of this makes the Uncharted 4 multiplayer experience endless fun that will have players coming back long after the credits roll in the main story. Uncharted 4 is what every AAA game should strive for. It delivers on all fronts with its campaign to its multiplayer. Uncharted 4 is what gaming is all about, the ability to tell a fantastic story all while delivering enjoyable gameplay. When a game rises above and becomes more than just a game, it has the ability to make a lasting impression on anyone that plays it. Uncharted 4 isn't just a game. It's an emotional story with compelling characters that keep the player coming back for more. It is an action-packed with the mechanics of a game especially suited to tell its story. It has the graphical power to allow the player to gawk at the beauty of its scenery. It is everything I ever wanted in a game and more, and it is nearly perfect. This is the reason I bought a PS4. It is truly a game for the ages that nothing else can compare to. Uncharted 4 is an instant classic that will go down in history as one of the greatest games of all time. If you want to read my written review of Uncharted 4, you can check it out with the link in the description below to my blog. If you want to subscribe, go ahead and click the button to the left. If you want to check out my video review of Abzu for PS4, go ahead and click the video to the right. Alright, thanks for watching. Good night.